It's Friday, July 10th, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start here. Some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. If you are an iOS user, you may have noticed some issues with Spotify or maybe TikTok or Tinder or Pinterest. Yeah, there's a lot of them. We'll tell you why those issues have been happening. And we have some great guests on the show today, including Hall of Fame photographer Andy Bernstein. He's going to be talking about his podcast, Legends of Sport, and discussing his incredible career. We'll also be joined by Huma Abedi, a senior director of AI software products at Intel, to talk about ways to support women in tech and to give advice to girls looking to follow that career path. And it's Friday, and we'll have another edition of Tech Briefs for you, where I'll be joined by guest co-host Pavi Didamani to bring you up to date on some of the biggest stories in tech from this past week. And all of that will be here and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Yes, hello everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. We're broadcasting on a number of platforms, so thank you for joining us. Hit subscribe, share the show. But let's get you started off with some trending news. And certainly if you're an iOS user, this is something you may have been experiencing, and that's some apps that were crashing. If this sounds familiar, well, the same thing happened back in May. So let's talk about why. Well, here it is. So with Tinder, Pinterest, Spotify, TikTok, a number of different apps, and this is just for iOS users, you were seeing them crash. Now, if you went offline, you were able to open them. So when you were hooked up online, you couldn't open them. Going off, you could. Here is why that was happening. And that is because of Facebook's login software. So Facebook's SDK, which, you know, when you sign up for an account, for an app, it says, hey, do you want to sign in with your Google account, set up a new one, or just use Facebook? Well, when you're doing that, you're going through Facebook's servers, and that is where the issue was. So this did happen previously back in May, where this went on. It does look like it is resolved for most people now, but it does kind of showcase some of the different things that you're doing when you're signing in and going through services like that. It does make it very convenient, but it does put you at that risk where something could happen and crash. Now, there's no issues that have been reported as far as information or hacking or anything like that. It's just an inconvenience, but nonetheless, that is why that was happening. So a lot of confused people on social media posting about that, trying to understand why, and understandably so. That is what happened. So it's Facebook's SDK that caused that issue. Again, it does seem to be fixed now, but if you want to read more about it and find out why that stuff happens, you can go to digitaltrends.com. Definitely a trending news story there. Continuing on with trending news stories, let's talk about TikTok. They have not had a great week. And here is one more reason why. Ninja has left TikTok, citing concerns about security. And this is Ninja tweeting this out, so that he had deleted the Chinese app, China-made app, which it is made in China, TikTok, over privacy concerns. And he tweeted this out to 6 million followers. Now, I said he deleted the app. His account is still active as of right now, but he is not using it. So there's what he posted on that. And this kind of follows a number of things that are going on with TikTok for both people who are supportive and not supportive. They've already been banned in India. They have voluntarily left Hong Kong to showcase that they don't want to share information with police there. There's the threat of a possible banning in the United States. The U.S. Department of Justice is looking at ways that that might happen. And then on top of that, you have Instagram, which is coming into a number of different countries with Reels, which is their kind of version of TikTok, if you will. And they went live in India, Brazil, France, and Germany. So a lot going on when it comes to TikTok. There's also a campaign, though, from TikTok users to go back against Trump, and that is to basically review bomb their app. So review bomb the Trump app, and there's a campaign for that on TikTok right now to go there and do that as well. So a lot happening with TikTok, and we'll have to see where this all shakes out. But again, just keeping you up to date with what's going on. So that's one more major influencer who is leaving the platform, with Ninja posting that. You can read more about TikTok and everything going on at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on with trending news, let's talk about a new Google Nest speaker. So this comes on the heels of an image that was leaked showcasing what was looked to be maybe the follow-up to the Google Home device or a Google Nest speaker, and now Google has confirmed that. So they put out this video sent it out to publishers from their PR team to kind of showcase a little bit of what's going on, and there it is right there. So it's when you see that girl come in there with the speaker and holding that, that's what we're looking at. So there's the picture of it right there. Definitely a lot bigger. If you have a Google Home, it's a tiny little speaker. This is a lot bigger than that. A couple of things that are being speculated with this is that it's, one, it's not as big as the Google Home Max for sure, but it is definitely bigger than the Google Home. It's speculated that they're going to be going after better sound, a better speaker quality out of that, and also the possibility that it could run on batteries. That would be a pretty big development for a smart device like that, and that's because when she walks into the room, she's holding it, it's not plugged into anything, so speculation is maybe you will get a battery-powered home smart speaker, which would be a pretty big development. So we'll have to see where that goes, but that's them putting that out. Expect that we'll see more coming out soon with some kind of announcement about what's going on with that and probably some other products that will go with it. But we've got a whole write-up about it at digitaltrends.com. You can go there and take a look and let us know what you think about that, what you'd like to see in a smart home speaker, but definitely something interesting coming from Google. Continuing on with your trending news today. Let's talk about robots. There's a number of robots that we have talked about so far on this show, but this is another way that a robot could help out humans and not necessarily take away a human's job. So this is a robot chemist that's actually coming out of the University of Liverpool, and this was trending today because people were talking about how this lab assistant, this robot chemist, could work 1,000 times faster than any human, and that is because it can do all these experiments on its own. Can operate autonomously. They did a test where they had it running 700 different experiments with 10 possible variables over 8 days, and it operated completely on its own, autonomously, doing all of this, running these experiments, doing these chemical tests, and there's very detailed chemistry that went on there. If you want to read more about that, you can find that at Digital Trends. But the idea here is that this would be able to help out a lot of humans, and if you think about all of the medical research and different things that are necessary right now, this could certainly be something that could help people out, because they said that it gets very tedious, it's very it's very intensive to do these kinds of experiments, and that's why having a robotic chemist would really help that out. But that is something you can also read more about there at digitaltrends.com, a robot chemist. All right, and we got a couple more here for you. Coming up tomorrow, SpaceX is going to continue with their launch of Starlink satellites. Now, this is one that's been delayed a couple of times, but now their new window is going to be tomorrow morning, and that is Saturday morning, depending on when you watch this, where they're going to be setting up 57 Starlink satellites. Something interesting about this launch, though, is that these are going to have the visor sats. So visor sats, meaning they're going to have a visor to try to keep some of that sunlight from being reflected back down to the Earth. So a big issue with the Starlink satellites that a lot of astronomers have had is that they reflect the light back, and it clouds up the sky, makes it hard for their telescopes to work. So this is something that could maybe reduce some of that reflectiveness on these. So this is an attempt to try that out. They're going to be trying out some other ones on further launches with some different things called dark satellites, but this one would have this visor on it to help maybe keep some of that reflectiveness from coming back down and messing up astronomers' research. So there's also that. They do have a couple other satellites that are launching up as well, called Black Sky, which are part of their rideshare program. But again, you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com, and of course follow along with the launch. One quick final breaking news story too. If you've been following with what's going on with Ubisoft, with their event that's going to be happening on Sunday, well, we got a leak that came out earlier this week that possibly they could be revealing Far Cry 6, when the rumor was Giancarlo Esposito would be playing the villain in this, because this went up on a Hong Kong website where it showcased what looked like the game for sale, and then it was immediately taken down, and Ubisoft tried to not say anything about it, but now today they've just flat out revealed it. So they posted a video showcasing a character that Esposito would be playing called Anton Castillo, and it just said Anton would not be very happy. There it is right there. So that means on Sunday we're probably going to get to see some actual game footage of this new game. I'm excited for that. I'm a Far Cry fan, so I figured a lot of people would want to know about that, but there it is. Far Cry 6 looks like it is on the way, and you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
Here it is. The product of the day today is a smart mug. Here's what we're talking about. It's the Ember temperature-controlled travel mug. And so this is what this can do. And I mean temperature control because it can keep your beverages hot for a very long time. So it's 12 ounces. It's a real simple setup, but if you look at the bottom, it's got kind of this rotating dial where you can dial it in to how hot you want your coffee or your tea or whatever to be. It's even got the little note there at the bottom to say hello. This thing can keep beverages hot for 2 hours on a single charge. So if it's off of the coaster, you can keep it hot for 2 hours. If you put it on the coaster, it can keep it hot for pretty much indefinitely. And it's dishwasher safe. It's easy maintenance. It's even got an app that goes along with it, so that's how you can name your mug or create presets or do whatever you want with that. Normally, this thing is $149.99. Right now, it's on sale for $50 off at $99.99, and it's at that link that is right there on this page right below me, or maybe to the side, depending on where you're watching, but you can click through that link and take advantage of the deal. So again, that is the Ember Smart Mug, the temperature-controlled travel mug. So check that out right there for our product of the day. All right, we've got a lot coming up here on the show today, so we're going to get to it. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Coming back, we've got Andy Bernstein. He is an NBA Hall of Fame photographer. I mean, some of the most iconic images you've ever seen from the NBA. He's taking them. We're going to talk about that and his podcast. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, share the show, let other people know about it. We get to have some great conversations on here, and we want you to be a part of those as well. And we're going to have a great conversation right now, because joining us, we have Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame sports photographer Andy Bernstein here with us. Andy, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
Greg, thanks for having me, man. Super excited about talking about all this with you.
There's so much to talk about. I mean, let alone your amazing photographs. We're going to get into that here in a minute because I got to ask you some questions about some of those. But before that, let's talk about the podcast. And it's pretty amazing what you've got going. So Legends of Sport, the third season just coming out and partnering now with the LA Times. Can you tell us about the show and what made you maybe originally want to start this up?
Yeah, great question. I've been doing what I do for close to 40 years now, and I love making friends and the conversations that I've had with all the greats of the game, on and off the court, on and off the field. And I developed a show that actually a TV show that is running currently on the Lakers Spectrum network called Through the Lens, where I sit with a Laker personality and we chat and all that. And Norm Pattis, my good friend, who owns Podcast One, asked me to bring that show onto his podcast platform, which is a little difficult since it's a visual medium, But we developed this show called Legends of Sport, where I sit down and talk to people throughout the sports world about their experiences, what made them who they are, our mutual experiences together. And that's expanded into the third season. We've now done more than 80 podcasts, and we're now co-producing and have a distribution agreement with the LA Times, which is fantastic. And we're rolling that out this week. Was our first episode of that partnership, called Restarting the Clock, based on the restart of the NBA season. So for the next 16 weeks, I'll be sitting with or talking with, actually not really sitting with, but doing Zooms with legends of the game, broadcasters, current coaches and trainers, people involved in the bubble down in Orlando. So bringing a lot of kind of different content to the public where we can draw from, our Legends history and what our mission is with Legends, but also be relevant with what's going on right now.
I mean, with that, 40 years, you've seen a lot of different changes in basketball, a lot of things that have come and gone, and talked to all of these people, too. And you mentioned the guests. I just kind of wanted to highlight that, too. Just what people can listen to, like who some of these guests are.
Oh, we've had some amazing guests. I mean, A-list guests, everyone from Kobe, Magic, David Stern. I've had some amazing women, Tamika Catching, Swin Cash, Sue Bird, Kevin Love, I could name a lot of them. Peter Guber was an amazing guest. Yeah, I mean, can't get better than that. And
right.
Yeah, and we've been able to reach out beyond the NBA and WNBA into boxing, into horse racing. We had Mike Smith 2 days after he won the Triple Crown. He came on the podcast. We've had Kirk Gibson, Oral Hershiser. So, sky's the limit. And now that we're partnered with the Times, we have that extra added sort of cachet of working with them and reaching out through them. So it's going to be a great partnership.
Taking a look at your career and some of these images that you've taken, of like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, mentioned just two of those, of all these people that you've taken, some of the most iconic images of them that are out there. When you're in this moment, when you're there documenting, because your job is to document and be, kind of that third party, but you're around these guys all the time. And I would imagine you probably get to know each other personally. How hard is it to separate yourself from the moment and not get caught up in it, and to make sure that you're still documenting what's happening?
Well, I learned very, very early in my career that if I get sucked into the emotion of what's going on the field or on the court, then I'm not doing my job. I always say that if I see the moment happen in my viewfinder, I miss the picture because the picture should be happening when I'm actually shooting and the viewfinder goes dark for that millisecond that I push the shutter. So I did learn the hard way with that. And very quickly in my career, I realized, look, I got to separate myself. I have to kind of have, as Kobe would say, that Mamba mentality and be locked in, put everything away and just concentrate on my job. And, what I do is sometimes we call it combat sports photography, when we're rushing, me and, all my friends are rushing out there on the court after the team wins the championship, or we're in the champagne locker room or whatever's going on, and you don't get another shot at it. So, if I'm not doing my job, if I'm kind of in the moment of reveling and having fun, then I shouldn't be there.
Well, that's sign of a pro right there. Somebody who's been doing it a long time. Something I want to ask you, you brought up, covering this season and how much different, and I mean, everything's different and weird right now, but in particular, just for the NBA season, this bubble that's going to be down there in Orlando. I guess my question for you is, are you going to be down there documenting it? And how do you feel that this is going to be covered? What do you do differently now with the way it is?
Well, I can only answer one of those questions, which is yes, I will be going to the bubble. I'm scheduled to go on August 18th for the duration of the season, which could go 7 weeks. August 18th till the last day of the finals, I believe, could be, if it goes 7 games, could be October 12th. So that's like, a long time away. Never been away that long. I've been away, 3 weeks for an Olympics or something like that, but never 7 weeks. That was a little bit of a tough sell at home. The jury is out right now on how we're going to cover the games. They haven't started playing yet, but the NBA does have a plan in place of keeping us, even though we are the closest to the players, we still have to keep a distance from them. So whether we're able to shoot from the court or a little bit off the court, there'll be a lot of space because there won't be any fans there. So maybe we'll find some cool angles from the seats or somewhere elevated. But it's going to definitely be a different experience.
Yeah, wow. Everything's different about it, but it'll be, like you said, interesting to see how it comes out. One other thing I wanted to ask you, just talking about the tech side of things, and again, something I'm sure you've seen a lot of change through over the years. What do you normally shoot with now? Do you have some standard things that you go with, or does it depend on the situation?
Yeah, I'm a Nikon photographer, and I've been a Nikon guy, probably 35 years. I actually started with Canon, but I only had one camera at the time, so it wasn't a big switch when I started. And I use pretty much everything they have in their candy store. I mean, you name it, we have it. Because we do, when I say we, myself and my assistants, we do a very extensive setup of 11 to 12 cameras a game, of which 7 or so of those cameras are remote cameras put in strategic locations around the arena. So we have to have, multiple camera bodies. We have to have, basically every lens they make. We have to have these radio transmitters, Ethernet setups, wireless, all kinds of stuff. So when we pack up everything to travel, it's basically 7 or 8, big shipping cases, and we take the show on the road. But that's become the standard for us for the last, God, I don't even know how long, 25, 30 years.
Wow. That's tremendous. I mean, it's just fascinating looking at it, through your eyes and what you get to see and what you get to share with everybody too. Again, with some of these images, Michael Jordan holding that trophy with his dad and Kobe and all of those. I mean, it's just incredible moments that you've been able to bring to everybody. And for this podcast, I want to remind everybody too, just to go back to that. So the season just launched. When can people listen to it, and where should they go to get it?
They can listen right this second after we're done. But the podcast can be found on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. If you have the LA Times app or you want to get the LA Times app, we're actually on their app with their other podcasts in their menu. So go to Legends of Sport. Also our Instagram @Legends of Sport. We have a great blog, legendsofsport.blog. My photography, which I'm posting a lot of vintage stuff, and we cross-platform between Legends of Sport, is @ADB Photo Inc. And we have a YouTube and TikTok channel. Why not? My 12-year-old got me involved in TikTok. So that's Legends of Sport on both of those channels.
Nice. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining us here today. Really, really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us, and looking forward to seeing the coverage, however it works out, of the NBA season, and of course listening to the podcast. Thanks for being here with us.
Oh, thanks, man. And I'm happy to check back in with you if you want to come to me in the bubble. I'll need something to do down there, so it'd be great to talk to you.
Would love to. Yeah,
Sure,
that would be great. We'll
Great.
get that set up. Awesome.
All right, man. Take care, Greg.
Cool. Thanks, Andy. All right, that is just awesome. Seriously, legendary photos. I know we need to get going, though, so let's go to break. We're going to come up. We've got Maya Schwader on. She's going to join us to talk about some of the things that have been going on with Facebook. They have been in the news a lot for those content moderation issues. What's all happening? She's going to catch us up to date on that and answer some questions. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you are watching on, because we keep you up to date on what is going on in technology. And certainly, Facebook's had suffice to say, a tumultuous past couple of weeks, years, I don't know, decade. But we're going to talk about right now what is going on with some of their things in association with content moderation, the boycott that's going on, all of this stuff. We've got Maya Schwader here to catch us up to date and try to make sense of some of this. There's so much that's been happening. I guess to start off with, maybe we should talk about the boycott and what all is associated with that.
Absolutely. So this was a boycott that was announced sometime at the beginning of June by such groups as the Anti-Defamation League. The NAACP was signed on, a group called Free Press, which is about expression on the internet and moderating expression on the internet. A bunch of different activist groups signed on and started trying to pressure advertisers to remove their ads from Facebook just for the month of July, just to see what that feels like. How would the advertising world look if they didn't factor Facebook into their ad buying schemes? Now, what you have to understand is that Facebook is a behemoth in the advertising world. If you are an advertiser, you don't not advertise on Facebook. They just reach so many people. I think it's 2.6 billion active users on Facebook at last count. And Facebook makes nearly all of their revenue from ads. Their revenue for 2019 was more than $70 billion, nearly all of it from ads. And advertisers know this. They know that they are basically the lifeblood of Facebook. Now, with all the controversies that have been swirling around Facebook, content moderation, hate speech, allowing politicians to post, let's say, types of posts that ordinary people might not be allowed to post, this has thrown advertisers into a revolt of sorts, with them saying, well, why are we associating our brand with this platform that allows this sort of misinformation and hate speech to flourish seemingly without any check? Now, the problem is, of course, as we mentioned, Facebook just is advertising these days. It has such huge reach that how exactly are you supposed to be an advertiser without using Facebook? So this month of July was sort of an opportunity for advertisers to experiment with that in a way.
And with that experiment, I mean, what's Facebook's response been as when it comes down to the advertising boycott? Does it actually hurt them? Is this something that's going to have far-reaching implications to make them change what they're doing?
Well, the activists certainly hope so. And they've certainly been able to send a strong message. We've had some big brands like Adidas, Coca-Cola, Unilever have all said they're taking their ads off of Facebook. And Unilever even upped the ante, shall we say, and said that they are taking their ads off Facebook for the remainder of 2020. Now, the thing is, it hasn't really taken a bite out of Facebook's revenue yet. However, their stocks did decline very, very sharply when the boycott was announced, and it was announced who was going to be participating in it. I think their stock declined by more than 50%. But Facebook, in the meantime, has been projecting, but they have been projecting this attitude of, we're unbothered. It's all fine. I think on the 1st of July, Zuckerberg even released a statement saying, oh, they'll be back. Don't worry. Come August 1st, the advertisers will be back. And this is exactly what we're wondering now is, come August 1st, does everything just revert to the way it was before? It's hard to say at this point. Now, there was this meeting that happened earlier this week between the people who were leading this boycott and Facebook executives. And what came out of that was basically the activists saying, we don't really believe Facebook is committed to change at all. And for their part, that was very disappointing. But you have to know that Facebook doesn't really have a lot of incentive to change. They are the biggest social media platform in the world still, by far one of the richest. Why exactly would they change?
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, with Zuckerberg just pretty much saying it there, they'll be back. I mean, it's such a bold statement, but yeah, at the end of the day, he might be right. There's also the other thing that came out too with the audit that was going on, and from what I understand, this was a multiple year process for this audit.
Yes, this folds very much into the whole question of advertisers and where they want to associate their brand. So this was a 2-year audit of Facebook and its platforms that came out this week. It started in 2018, and basically it doesn't make Facebook look very good. They have some pretty damning accusations in there. Quoting now, the report says basically, Facebook's constrained reading of its policies was both astounding and deeply troubling for the precedents it seems to set. It also said that its approach to civil rights remains too reactive and piecemeal, and that its whole approach right now is a big step back for civil rights, that it's allowing hate speech and disinformation to thrive on this platform, and that this poses a big threat to the November elections in the US. Where have we heard this before? When have we heard this before, right? And so this is translated into really frustration with the highest levels of Facebook. And it brings up this whole question of how do civil rights interact with social media? This isn't a new question per se, but it is a question that's gotten louder in the past, at least 4 years, if not before that, when social media just started being even more integrated into our lives than it was before. There are now more social media platforms that allow for further reach and further projecting of messages that might be hateful, that might contain misinformation, that might just generally not be great for democracy. And there just doesn't seem to be a push, at least from Facebook's side, to do anything about it. Now, we've seen some other actions from platforms like Instagram and from TikTok that have said that they are trying to moderate at least COVID-19 information, some steps to moderate who can participate in certain discussions to try to curb some of this hate speech. But Facebook, in general, just seems to be trying to push ahead with its model, which is working for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and especially with the election coming up, too, and like you said, just over the last 4 years, but certainly right now, especially, trying to tackle that kind of stuff. I mean, you have Twitter, which is taking a completely different stance, but yeah, with Facebook and where they're going, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. But certainly, yeah, it's kind of a crazy time for Facebook right now. That civil rights audit and
yes.
with the right, yeah, a lot to figure out. Well, Maya, thank you very much for joining us to talk about this and surmising this, because that's a lot that's happening that you just kind of boiled down into a few minutes. And I know we've got more coverage at Digital Trends too that people can go there and take a look at. But really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Maya Schrader right there. So a great job of surmising some of that stuff that's going on. These are not issues that are just going to go away. This is going to be a major thing for a long time until, we'll see where it all goes. All right. I know we need to get to a break. We're coming up here in just a minute. We're going to have Huma Abedi, who is the Senior Director of AI Software at Intel, and we're really excited to talk to her, talk about all kinds of different things. That's coming up next. Stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, share the show, let other people know about it. We get to have some great conversations here on the show, and that's what we're going to have right now. We've got joining us Huma Abida, who is a Senior Director of AI Software at Intel. Huma, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Greg. Glad to be here.
There's a lot that I want to talk about with you, but I think let's go right into this and talking about just working in technology and some of the major issues that are there when it comes to diversity and in particular women in technology. I know you're an advocate to help change that and make some differences to correct some of these issues. And I wondered if you could just talk to us a little bit about that, to highlight what some of the issues are and what some of the ways are that this could be maybe resolved.
Yes, absolutely. As you said, this is something I'm very passionate about. And it starts with STEM in general. It's very well established that women are far less represented in STEM. And there's obviously a lot of effort that's going on across all industry and all universities, etc. So I want to talk a little bit about AI because that's what I work on. And AI, the numbers are even far less than STEM. And it's even more important in AI because we need to encounter bias. So you may have heard about the infamous hiring tool that was biased against women because of lack of data representing women. Then some other examples like word embedding used in natural language processing, where trained on Google News article, it absolutely exhibits the gender, male, female gender stereotype. And if you say man is to computer program, it will say woman is to homemaker. So as I said, that something that I'm passionate about, and I'm really happy that Intel has taken very nice goals. For example, we had a goal for 2020 to make sure that women and URM, underrepresented minority, are represented at all levels. And we were fortunate that we were able to meet that goal 2 years ahead of schedule. And there was a lot of effort that went into this: hiring, investing in schools, retention, pipeline. And going forward now for 2030, the goal is to have women in tech to reach 40%. So there is, there's a lot of effort that's going on across the industry. But the first thing is to recognize that there is an issue. And then I can, unless you want me to talk about something else, I can talk about how we can do that. If that's okay.
No, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Yeah, so how do we start fixing some of these issues and getting more girls and women and more diversity into STEM?
Yes, absolutely. So number one is role modeling, and you need to make it sound exciting. Not that, women are not good at science. Like in medicine, there are lots of women, but somehow computer science, AI, that has been presented in society as not something that women are driving. So number two is how it's relevant in the world, like applications that AI, they can easily see, Alexa, self-driving cars, social media. How does Netflix know which movie I want to watch? So showing that is something that will attract women and girls. And not just attracting them, also retention. So AI for social good. In my experience, I have seen that women are very interested in that, changing, working on things that will change the world, AI for social good. So the other thing in AI specifically is that it is a very interdisciplinary field. And you can apply AI to your own domain. Whether it's computer science or business or economics, education, law, neuroscience, whatever it is, all of this needs to come together to create an innovative research for AI. And one example
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I love to paint. And I was able to combine AI with painting and neural style transfer that you can do. And I was able to morph a computer chip with my own modest painting or my painting with Monet. And of course, I use the VGG19 trained model, but there are these tools out there. So my point is that AI can be used in so many different areas, and you can combine what you are doing with AI. So if we can show this to women and girls, and not only this is something they can see their work very clearly versus computer science. Computer scientist is sitting and doing their work on the desk versus you can actually see how it's impacting. And then combining whatever you are doing with AI is another way of showing that can be done.
For people out there, and in particular, for maybe young women or girls who are wanting to do this, where would you recommend I send them right now if they're like, hey, I want to find out more information right now about this? Where would we direct them to go?
That's a wonderful question. So all companies, such as Intel, has an intel.ai portal that you can get a lot of information about AI and others. And I'll talk about AI, and then I can talk about general as well. But for AI, there is so much open source and free information that's out there, and courses like Coursera by Andrew Young or Udacity, or there's so many wonderful podcasts. Lex Friedman, something that I listen to all the time, or they're highly rated books, Peter Norvik's book, or Kai-Fu Lee's book, or Yuval Harari. So there's podcasts, there are courses, MIT, Stanford, all of these are offering free courses for people to do. And besides that, if you're really interested, you could actually go and take a degree in AI or computer science, or plus there are, this is like endless. I can have a list of places that they can go.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is this. I mean, clearly you have been in this for a long time, and you said that, we want to make AI cool and make sure that everybody understands how great it is. And it is cool. It's very cool. You're very cool. Thank you very much for being here.
Very kind of you.
I appreciate it. And it's just, it's exciting the work that you do there. And thank you for sharing this information. And hopefully somebody who's watching right now can go follow along with that and follow in your footsteps. And Huma, thank you very much for being here on Digital Trends Live with us.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Huma Abedi right there. So very important stuff. And really, that was great. That was a wonderful conversation. Let's continue on here with Digital Trends Live. We need to take a break. Coming up next, we've got Tech Briefs, and I've got a special guest co-host, Pavi Dinamani, who's going to be here with us to break down some of the big news stories in tech. That's coming up next. Stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. It's now time for Tech Briefs, where we break down some of the biggest stories in tech for you and try to make sense of it all. And this segment is presented by Samsung Galaxy 5G. Feels good to be first, and I've got a special guest co-host with us today, and that is Pavi Dinamani. You know Pavi from Digital Trends, but Pavi, hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going out there in Portland?
It is going well. Excited to talk about some tech, and let's do this right now. Certainly something that a lot of people are doing, especially during what's been going on, and that is gaming. Gaming is huge, and it's only going to get bigger, and one of the great things about it is that with speeds that 5G can provide, it's going to get even better, and that's what we kind of want to get into here. So things like the Samsung Galaxy 5G, which allows for really fast streaming of gaming, and some of the really big benefits that come from that are things like low latency. And I know that you want to talk a little bit about that too.
Absolutely. I mean, think about this with quarantine and the pandemic. This is actually some good news coming out of it because we're spending so much time on our phones, streaming videos and gaming, and having access to Samsung Galaxy 5G devices that actually stream on 5G. Streaming is going to be smoother than ever, and you don't even have to wait for the content to upload or even load. This is incredible because low latency means faster responses than traditional 4G network or even like your Wi-Fi. So I feel like low latency and quick load times, sign me up.
Right, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to gaming, because I do game, but I get so tired of waiting for content to load, and that's why I'm really excited for speeds like 5G. And the other thing too is low lag. So when you're playing a game, and I don't know if this has happened to you, where you're playing and all of a sudden your character stutters, or you're trying to go in for some move on somebody and then it drops out. That's something that 5G can help change, and in particular, the ability to do it on mobile as well. With reliable speeds like that 5G can bring, you won't have so many issues with that. That's why it's so exciting when it comes down to that. When it comes down to playing on 5G and being able to stream your games pretty much anywhere you want.
Absolutely. And speaking of streaming anywhere you want, this is essentially gaming on the go. How cool is that? Like, it's gaming untethered. You can stream over a 5G connection with your Samsung Galaxy 5G device. It means you can play anywhere on the go, play your console games from anywhere on your phone. This is definitely incredible in terms of technology moving forward, especially with quarantining and things like that. You can actually, wherever you are, even if you get away for a little while, you still can stream, and you can use devices like the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G or the new Samsung Galaxy A71 5G. It basically, Samsung offers a variety of range of options that support 5G. So civilians like Gregory, you and me, we can be amongst the first of people to actually experience the next generation of mobile connectivity. Essentially like a... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I want to be one of the first. And with that, talking about, right? Well, talking about the mobile side of things too, and being able to do that, it's going to open up a lot of possibilities and a lot of different experiences that, people may not have had before. And that's that high quality gaming on mobile, on the devices like you were just talking about on phones, and even talking about, virtual reality and even 8K gaming. These are all things that can come with 5G, like Samsung Galaxy 5G, and those devices that you mentioned, the Samsung Galaxy S20 5G, or even the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G, both devices that you'll be able to do that on. It's really, really exciting to see where this is all going for gaming. All right, continuing on here with Digital Trends Live and Tech Briefs, let's talk about another couple of big topics this week, and one of them being Uber buying Postmates, kind of changing up the game of food delivery. I don't know about you, but I have ordered a lot of food online. It sounds like a lot of other people have been too, and these companies are noticing and they want to try to consolidate a little bit. So right now you've got, going through them, it's DoorDash is number one here in the US, now Uber/Postmates number two, and then you've got Grubhub and Just Eat Takeaway coming in there at the end. I mean, it's a pretty big deal seeing some of this consolidation, just seeing how it's changing up what we're doing. And I know there's some numbers that have come out too, just talking about how many people are ordering online.
Yeah. Uber purchased Postmates for an estimated $2.65 billion. And honestly, that's good business. I mean, they did what they had to do because it's a strategic move, because think about it, we've all stopped rideshare. We weren't using that many like Uber Lyfts for a while. And rideshare for Uber went down by 80% and their food delivery went up by 50%. So that's a strategic move on their part. And it makes sense when you think about it, that you might as well expand your database and things like that. But I'm curious to see what that consolidation would look like, actually.
Yeah, and how it's all going to shake out because, with this, you've got, like you said, Instacart, is another way that they're going to be going towards things too, like trying to have some competition with that and where those numbers are and just how many people are actually ordering online. It's going to be a big change. And I think we're going to see a lot of those changes coming up as these companies start to battle each other because, you've got Grubhub was actually purchased by Just Eat Takeaway, which may not be well known in the United States, but it's really the second biggest food delivery service in the world, outside of China. And so they're going to be teaming up to try to take on the U.S. market with Grubhub. And, then you've got cities, how they're going to be handling things too. There's different ordinances that have been coming in because these delivery services are becoming so powerful, and especially with a lot of quarantine. People can't eat in restaurants in a lot of places. So it's a pretty big deal. So definitely something to follow along with. And I encourage everybody to go to digitaltrends.com and stay up to date with what's happening. But certainly a big move this week by Uber. And we've got one other topic here for everybody for Tech Briefs, and that is this. We talked about food delivery, but something else everybody's doing is streaming television and movies and entertainment. And Disney Plus had a big week, which I'm wondering if it's going to be a sign for some other streaming services. So Disney Plus releasing Hamilton on July 3rd. You probably could not avoid that news that Hamilton was released on Disney Plus, and everywhere everybody was talking about this. They moved it up from October 15th, 2021 was the original release date, moving it to July 3rd, 2020. And Disney Plus has had some pretty big success with this release.
Yeah. How's Disney doing? Said no one ever this past weekend, just because it's definitely a genius move to have this. First of all, it's great to have access to live theater, even though this isn't necessarily the best experience to be live theater. It's kind of a cross between a movie and that. But definitely a good move by Disney to remove all the free trials and have people purchase it for this past weekend. The numbers were incredible because from just this past weekend of Friday through Sunday, Disney Plus, the app, was downloaded more than 752,000 times globally. And just in the US, it's about 459,000 plus times it was just downloaded this past weekend. And that's analytics firm Apptopia's information. So you can imagine it's only going up, especially with the hype and people talking about it. I haven't watched it personally. I still want to. But just because of these numbers, I'm like falling into that mob mentality. I have to watch this. I need to know how it is. And it's amazing because I've always tried to get access to watching Hamilton in general. But this is great. This is access on my doorstep for an affordable price.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I've finally watched it, and I have had this soundtrack stuck in my head all week. I've probably listened to it over and over. I mean, it is good. But looking at it from there, too, and seeing what Disney Plus did, releasing this that early and putting out a big player out there just to get those numbers, and it worked. So you have to wonder if other streaming services who are buying up all this content, if they're going to start doing some of the same thing. And I'm curious, going down the road, there's a lot of movies that aren't getting released into theaters. And if that continues, will we see some of that finally shift, to go to some of these apps? It'll be interesting to see how it all works out.
Exactly. It's pretty much like a no-brainer at this point because we don't know where the end is in sight. I don't see movie theaters opening up or even Broadway musicals opening up in the near future. It would be kind of dumb not to go that way. And it seems like it's a genius move.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up. But again, that's somehow we've already run out of our time. So this is what we do here every week, though, for Tech Briefs. I know, and I thank everybody for joining us. So again, we are a podcast. You can download that podcast wherever you get your podcasts at, and tune in every week. And Pavi, thank you so much. I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Always pleasure. Bye.
Pavi Dinamani right here on Digital Trends Live for Tech Briefs. And again, thank you everybody for joining us here on Digital Trends Live. I appreciate it greatly. And we are here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And next week we'll have a whole another lineup for you. And a reminder, everybody, that Robots Everywhere, the new episode is up on our YouTube channel. Go there, take a look at that. And of course, go to digitaltrends.com to stay up to date with all the news. On Monday, we've got Drew Prindle here for awesome tech you can't buy yet. We'll also have Ronan Glon to talk about automotive technology. And that's just a small part of what's happening on Monday. So thank you to everybody. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here on Monday with another edition of Digital Trends Live.